So everything else should fall under order there. Next, we would have commission reports. Commissioner Pennell.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure everybody was staying safe during the storm, and I wanted to turn it over to Steve Goins to give us a report on how we're doing.
Well, we fared the storm fairly well overall. We had some problems up at the North Cliff area. The inlet from Canyon Creek got choked with some material. Had some flow coming down the street for a while when the storm was really high. That was impacting the ability for the system to take in that water. We had some flooding at the Dairy Queen parking lot. And around that same time, the tide was coming up. We had an exceedingly high tide today. That impacted our ability to quickly drain some of the water that was coming in. You saw some of the road conditions on First Street and Front Street, particularly around Grove. But as the tides went out and the rains diminished, the waters receded there. We had some other areas with some sort of local issues. We had some, unfortunately, incidents of surcharging manholes up on the Ingleside area. The treatment plant at its capacity was running about 11.5 million gallons, pretty high flows coming into the plant. So that was contributing to some of the problems there. About 4 o'clock today, that volume was decreased to about 10 million gallons, so it was going the right direction for us. Had some other localized flooding issues that were mainly attributed to clogged drains around the hospital, some local areas. Overnight we had a minor slide up the Pioneer Way. A couple trees came down, had a little bit of debris in the road. And we had some other problems that were construction related, where some of the work that had been going on, the inlets had these filters in them that were diminishing the flows as well, and those had to be yanked out to allow them to flow properly. So all in all, we did pretty well. Crews worked really hard trying to clean up, had a lot of sandbags out and about, and in total that was what happened today.
Okay, and I guess the weather forecast is for more rain throughout the week, so I guess I wanted to just encourage folks to go out and clear out storm drains if they get a chance. And there's lots of leaves out there that could be cleared away, and that could possibly help.
All that little bit helps, yeah. If you're pulling leaves out, pull them completely out and get them so they can't get washed back in later.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
That it? Commissioner Olson?
Tomorrow night, I have the Mason Transit Authority Board meeting, and that's all I have for the week.
And I have no scheduled meetings for the remainder of this week, and that concludes our commission reports. And in my haste, I superseded us in front of Miss Heidi McCutcheon there, and so I was supposed to do you first, and so forgive me for that, and I was kind of busy, but we're a small town, we can have mistakes if we want, huh? So anyway, are you ready for your commission report? Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. This letter is a dual letter, if you will. It has both the second and the third quarter tourism report. So some of the tourism efforts that we made in this period were the creation of 3 30-second commercials for television commercial spots that promote our tourism website. That was where a large amount of my time was comprised for tourism in the last 2 quarters, as well as we've updated our tourism website, explorehoodcanal.com, to be WordPress and mobile ready. So we're very excited about that, to be able to have those capabilities. For the second quarter of 2012, I can tell you that we received just over 22,000 visitors at our website, which is a 19% increase over 2011. So that's good. We're moving in the right direction. For third quarter of 2012, we received just over 32,000 visitors, which is an 8% increase from 2011. So of those, nearly 25,000 were new visitors, and our page itself had over 9,000 page views. So again, everything seems to be going in the right direction. We're really happy about that. We did mail 13 relocation packets, 16 visitor packets, 10 information, and 8 school packets to recipients in 11 states. And then I present the normal visitor counts compared to last year's counts. So we were up a little in the second quarter as far as visitors to the caboose and the chamber office. And then it looks like we're down just slightly for the third quarter of 2012 when compared to 2011's counts. So with that, do any of you guys have any questions?
I was wondering where the commercials are going to show.
We are finishing up a LTAC grant for Mason County that we're looking to receive some funds for that. Providing we access those funds, we'll dictate how often we're able to show those. But the commercials, they do have 3 different audiences. So one is for outdoor adventurists, another is for families, and then the third is for couples and singles. So depending from what we'll do is we'll air those with Comcast Spotlight. They have a lot of data from other Washington State communities, Leavenworth, Grays Harbor, to get some data as far as what the best means for that is. Based off of that data, it looks like the family commercials will go on Animal Planet, the adventure ones will go on Discovery Channel, and then the couples and singles will go on a couple of different networks. So, yeah.
I know you're not directly affiliated with this experience, but I believe one of the kind of the tourist kind of activities that we do every year right around the 1st of December is kind of where they close down Railroad, and this year we've changed the name on that. It's another kind of group that does that. I believe Downtown Merchants, but you guys
Yes.
are kind of tied in with them a little bit on promoting something like that. So
Yeah, we promote, we do some of the advertising with the Downtown Merchants. We also help promote that to our members as well as our mailing list, which we have just shy of 2,000 on our mailing list, or our email list that we send out the weekly e-blast to, so we'll have all of that information on there. As well as we coincide our Shop Local efforts during that time. So on Small Business Saturday, which this year is November 24th, we'll roll out our holiday Shop Local campaign, which offers discounts and deals for our local merchants.
And then again, that's on the one on the Saturday is the merch, or it's the what do you say? What's the name of the one on the 24th?
The 24th is Small Business
Small-
Saturday. It's kind of everybody knows Black Friday.
Yeah.
So Thanksgiving, Black Friday.
Right.
So there's been a real push in the last several years for Small Business Saturday, which encourages patrons of smaller towns to remember to patronize their own businesses as well.
And then, not to belittle the point, then on November 30th, is that when
November 30th
it used to be
is-
called the first Friday, but now they've
It's
named
Holiday Magic this year.
Holiday Magic, yes.
So, and that's where, they close down Railroad and they do the bonfires and the s'mores and the Christmas caroling and the Christmas tree lighting. So that will be November 30th, and then the Christmas parade December 1st at 5 o'clock.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your report.
Thank you.
All right, next on our business is what we're going to do is close the city commission meeting. And we are going to recess out of that and open a public hearing. Okay, and this public hearing will be about a community block grant. And that is going to be presented to us by our regional projects manager, Dennis McDonald.
Good evening, Mayor and
And
Commissioners.
first, before he speaks, if there's any, I've got a general public comment period at this point, but I'm kind of thinking we might do that after he speaks. So just following my agenda and trying to feel the crowd out. Let's just have you speak, and then if someone wants to speak, they can follow you.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is an annual event. Every year, the Community Development Block Grant has the city or makes announcement that it will be getting funding from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And this is funding that is a grant that's through a competitive bid application process to assist small cities and counties to conduct projects principally benefiting low to moderate income persons. These funds are for projects focused on public facilities, infrastructure, community centers, and micro enterprises. So before the city can submit an application, the process requires that the city inform the community through a public hearing, which is what we're doing today, of the CDBG program and of the potential opportunity of local organizations of partnering with the city to submit an application. The City Commission is responsible for reviewing and selecting a single application to CDBG. If I don't say it fast, I don't get it right. CDBG from the city. Staff will be available to consult with those folks that are interested in applying for this application, and then we'll be working with the Commission to develop a single application, and this application will be due January 31st, 2013. So it's coming up here pretty quick. So for the public hearing purposes, let me read, and I do apologize, we were going to have a Spanish interpreter who would have read this in Spanish, but unfortunately because of the weather, she's from Olympia and didn't think it was safe to come to Shelton. She heard about the flooding and all that. So.
Heidi could do this for us.
Yeah.
I think she knows Spanish, right?
Oh, did you want me to?
No, that was only a joke. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
She might know Spanish.
This public hearing was announced in the Journal November 15th, and also will be announced again on the 22nd. And I just want to say that the 22nd is not a formal public hearing, but I will be available at that meeting, which will be on November 26th, just to discuss with anybody that may show up. So, to be formal here, this is the statement I will read, and would have been normally read in Spanish. Anybody that is interested, we're looking, when I say Spanish, that is a population within the city that is large enough that because of CDBG requirements, that it is recommended that we do give it in the language that of the community, represents the community. And I'll talk about that at the end of how we can accommodate that. So, the purpose of the public hearing is to inform citizens of the availability of funds and eligible uses of the State Community Development Block Grant, and receive comments on proposed activities, particularly from low to moderate income persons and persons residing within the City of Shelton. The Washington State Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG program, provides funds on a competitive basis for public facilities, community facilities, economic development, housing, rehabilitation, public services, and planning projects that principally benefit low to moderate income households. For the 2013 funding set-asides, there is $12 million is proposed in 2013 funding to be distributed within 6 different programs. The city in the past has focused mainly on what is called the general purpose grant, and this year it's been reduced to an amount of $9,750,000 available on a statewide basis. HUD, or Housing and Urban Development, the department from the federal level, has national objectives that they expect to have met. The CDBG project activities must meet one of 3 of HUD's national objectives. Principally benefits low to moderate income persons, 1. Second, aids in the prevention or elimination of slums or blight, which we have none in Shelton. And third, addresses imminent threat to public health and safety, which we have none. CDBG eligibility guidelines is, in this case, we're looking at nonprofit organizations, Indian tribes, public housing authorities, port districts, community action agencies, and economic development councils are not eligible to apply directly to CDBG program for funding, but may partner in projects and be a subrecipient of the funding through the city of Shelton. And the city may submit just one request for funds per year. So up to $750,000. This is reduced from last year, which there was actually $1 million. You could apply for up to $1 million. This coming cycle, you can only apply for up to $750,000. May be available to the City of Shelton on a statewide competitive basis to fund public facilities, housing, economic development, and community facility projects that principally benefit low to moderate income persons. Questions regarding this public hearing and the proposed project should be directed to Steve Goins at 432-5136. And more than likely, he'll be directing those folks to me. So the information that we do have, printed information, in fact, for this evening's hearing, we have these available. They are in English, and we also have available in Spanish. So I'll put these at the back, so if people are interested, they can pick this up on the way out. There again, I will be available at the commission meeting on November 26th, just to answer questions. So if it's all right, I'd like to, during the administrative announcements, just announce that I'm there. There again, it meets the requirements for CDBG. The last statement request is that information, and that a group interested or the city. Now the city is also is available to submit their own proposal. So the city may come up with a proposal that will utilize these funds, but other groups that are interested in applying for the funds, I'm asking that they contact us no later than December 4th. So that gives us at least close to 2 months to be able to develop the applications and get it in on the due date, which is January 31st. So in past years, I thought you'd be interested. We have been successful once, and that was with the Mason County Homeless Shelter Group. They did receive $825,000 for their project to build the homeless shelter and apartment complex that they're working on. They're still working on design at this point, and they did go to bid, but all the bids were more than expected, so they probably will have to go out to bid a second time. Last year, we were very close, and I guess the key here is the Mason County Senior Activity Association application was above the required at least 65 points for meeting to be considered for funding. The unfortunate thing is the federal level didn't have enough funds coming downward to make it so that they didn't rank high enough to receive funding, but they were above that cutoff for at least for first consideration. So with that, I offer there again, if there's more than one application to be considered, I'll be talking with the commission coming in December to help with making a decision so we can get focused very quickly on just one application and spend the time in developing that. So, any questions?
So Dennis, since the Spanish interpreter wasn't able to be here tonight, is the notice that's in the newspaper in Spanish as well? Or can it be?
So I'm sorry, I can't really.
Can the notice that's in the newspaper be in Spanish as well, or is it already?
It is.
Okay.
It was, yes. It was provided, it will be provided on the 15th and the 20th. It's both in English and in Spanish,
Okay.
correct. The one other thing that is recommended, and it would be to put that advertisement in areas where there's Spanish-speaking commercial ventures, so that they're aware of this.
Okay.
I know of one group that's sitting behind me that's also interested, so and I've been contacted by another group, so
Okay.
at this point, I'm aware of 2 groups that are interested. Any other questions?
Olson? Is it true that the CDBG block grants is only available to cities of 50,000 and less population?
Correct.
All right, and then they have another program for larger cities, basically.
Correct. And in fact, they do have what they call direct funding there's 5 or 6 counties that they've earmarked, and they get HUD funding directly, and they're not included in this competitive bid process. So it's like King County, Snohomish County, Pierce County, Thurston, and Spokane County is another one that gets direct funding.
All right. I guess now, if there's any public testimony concerning this, we have a sign-up sheet over here, and we are available to hear that at this time. If we don't, we have somebody signed up? No? Okay. Nobody wants to talk at this time? That's okay. And so, if my fellow commissioners had enough information they need, then I believe we should state that the staff is accepting the project applications to present for selection in January. So you're looking for these people to come forward in the month of December. Okay? And thank you very much. At this time, we will close this public hearing. And we will go back into our previously scheduled City Commission meeting. Very good. First item on that agenda will be the reading of our consent agenda. And first, have my fellow commissioners had opportunity to read the information available to them through the consent agenda? Okay, please, Leslie Ann, could we have the reading then of that consent agenda?
Consent agenda, vouchers numbered 79697 through 79794 in the amount of $1,553,004.98. Payroll warrants numbered 68028 through 68234 in the amount of $593,700.60. Commission meeting minutes from study session of October 22nd, 2012, study session of October 29th, 2012, and business meeting of November 5th, 2012. Stop Violence Against Women Formula Grant Program, authorize the mayor to sign. Ordinance number 1820-1212, second reading. An ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, providing for the acquisition of certain properties for the improvement of the water utility, providing for the condemnation, appropriation, taking and damaging of land and other property rights necessary for the public use.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
I move we approve the consent agenda as read.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The consent agenda passes. That motion passes. We have no old business at this time, but we do have a few items on new business. And the first item on new business will be an energy efficiency grant with the State Department of Commerce. And I believe we have our Economics Development Director, Mr. Steve Goins, that's going to talk to us about that.
Mayor, Commissioners, as a means of background, earlier this year, staff embarked on a project to do some energy upgrades here at the Civic Center. This was discussed at length during our budgeting process, and we were trying to look for various funding options, grant money or rebates and other things to help minimize the cost of the project. This grant is a grant that we anticipated getting, but it took a while for the paperwork process to funnel its way toward us. But as you can see from the packet, we have a let me find it here. This is a interagency agreement with the Department of Commerce. This is targeted toward these energy efficiency projects. And looking through the packet, I wanted to find the portion that tells us exactly what the grant dollars are. It is on the third page in, there's a face sheet. In box number 5, the grant amount is $106,515. That represents 25% of the project cost. The project itself is well underway. You saw the cranes that were out here earlier dropping the condenser units on the roof. The outdoor work is essentially completed. The remaining work is largely controls on the inside of the building, checking systems to make sure they're integrated, and we're anticipating that will be completed before the end of the year. Our recommendation is to authorize the mayor to sign the interagency agreement with Commerce for this grant, place this on the consent calendar for the next meeting. I'll answer any questions you may have about this.
Any questions? I just wanted to make a little comment, and I wrote "good job" on here, because reading in the fine print, it said, "Energy savings resulting from this project are expected to offset the debt service payment as early as the first year." So, as we're spending money, we're saving money. And that savings will be experienced year after year after year. Energy efficiency is important, and so I think this was a good project for all. All right, so we'll follow your recommendations, it looks like, if my commissioners agree with this, and that's to place this on the consent agenda for November 26, 2012, authorizing the mayor to sign. So, looks like that's what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is an ordinance and first and final reading for a water sewer revenue bond, and this is going to be presented to us by our Director of Financial Services, Kathy Byerly.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I'm bringing before you a water sewer revenue bond anticipation note ordinance. This ordinance is for the interim financing for the upgrades to the sewer collection system. Currently, we are constructing our Basin 5 sewer project. The project began in 2007 with the design, and we're currently using the Public Works Trust Fund money to pay for the costs that we are incurring currently. Now, the entire project was made up of a number of different funding sources. There was a Department of Ecology loan for the design, Public Works Trust Fund loan, and a U.S. Department of Agricultural loan for the remaining part of the construction piece. At this time, we have approximately 6% of the project completed, the construction phase, and we've spent most of the Public Works Trust Fund money, and we're now needing access to the USDA funding. In order to gain access, this bond anticipation note needs to be issued. That will be in the form of a line of credit. Then as we proceed and we need to have expenditures, we can make draws on this line of credit. At the end of the project, or if we use up all the money first, then the band would close and a bond would be issued to USDA, and that would pay back the interim financing plus interest. So the ordinance that is included here authorizes all the applicable city officials to execute and deliver this note and all the documents that are required to do that. Also a part of the ordinance is a requirement for the city to adopt and implement written policies for post-issuance compliance. And those are needed in order to maintain the tax treatment of these bond anticipation notes. So, first, are there any questions on any of the details of the ordinance? If not, then staff requests the reading and passage of this ordinance tonight.
All right. Do my fellow commissioners concur that that's what we need to do at this time? Okay, Leslie Ann, could we please have that reading?
Ordinance number 1814-1112, first and final reading. An ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington relating to the waterworks utility of the city, including the system of sewage as a part thereof, establishing a non-revolving line of credit and providing for the issuance and sale of a water and sewer revenue bond anticipation note in the principal amount of not to exceed $7,546,000 to evidence of the line of credit to provide interim financing for upgrades to the sewer collection system and related improvements, and fixing the terms and covenants of the note.
Before we make a motion, there is an opportunity for any public comment. For the record, I do not see anybody signed in at this time. So, if we have just had that reading, is there a motion to approve the ordinance number 1814-1112?
I would move to approve ordinance number 1814-1112.
Second that?
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Kathy Byerly. Item number 3 has been scratched from our agenda, so that leaves us with item number 4. And again, that is concerning a business occupation tax and administration provision changes. And again, that would be from our Director of Financial Services, Kathy Byerly.
Thank you. In your packet, I've brought forth 2 ordinances for the model B&O tax and the administrative provisions for the City of Shelton taxes. In 2003, the Washington State Legislature passed House Bill 2030, now codified as RCW Chapter 35.102, which established a model municipal business and occupation tax ordinance that contained mandatory provisions, including definitions and methods of allocating and apportioning income, to be adopted by all the cities that impose a gross receipts business and occupation tax. House Bill 2030 also requires gross receipt business and occupation tax cities to adopt any amendment to a mandatory provision of the model ordinance, and any amendment to a mandatory provision must be adopted with the same effective date by all cities. And in I think it was October, the end of October this year, there's a group of cities, a committee of cities that are led by the Association of Washington Cities that are in consultation with the business community. They revised the model on October 31st with an effective date of January 1st of 2013. And these changes that are in these ordinances that I have brought forth include changes to the RCW 35.102 and reflect other changes made to state law since 2008, which is the last an update to the model B&O. Let's see. Basically, these are amendments to the ordinance, due to legislative actions that have been taken place in 2009, 2010, and 2012. And also, they make technical corrections to definitions and deductions. And they propose amendments provide for a definition of digital goods and incorporates the sale of the digital goods within the retail B&O tax definition, and also provides allocation criteria for the sale of the digital goods. So there's basically, in the first ordinance, which is the administrative provisions for all taxes, the basic change was the confidentiality, which it just details out the public disclosure requirements for all tax documents. Now, this was optional, but highly recommended, and it replaced the piece we had in there already, and it just has more detail on what you disclose and when. That was the main change included in that administrative provisions. But while we were in there, we noticed that it referenced our bank return check fee, and we are recommending removing that and replacing it just with a reference to our fee schedule. So then when that changes, it will change automatically. We won't have to come back to the ordinance every time. And then while we're in both of these ordinances, if we saw any little cleanups like numbers or spelling, or we found a couple small pieces that just hadn't gotten in there last time, we just updated that to ensure that everything was there appropriately. So we put a lot of time into this one just to make sure every I was dotted and T was crossed. So that's the basic change to the administrative provisions ordinance. And the other 6 pieces, the digital goods definitions and apportionment, the Board of Director licensing and tax, the super nexus, that was the insurance business, are all changes to there. And changes, we're estimating that the financial impact to the city is minimal, if any. They're more just clarifying, detailing out. In some case, there was some duplication. I believe that was the super nexus was already addressed in another section. I think that's about it. So if you have any questions, I could go through, if you want, the ordinance to every change, or if you have any questions, I would entertain them now.
Questions? Looks like you've done a good job. I don't have any questions either. So what you're requesting here is that we have first reading of both ordinances and place them on the consent agenda for November 26, 2012 for a second reading and adoption if my fellow commissioners concur to this, and it appears they do. So, Leslie Ann, did you want to read something to us?
I will.
Thank you.
Ordinance number 1815-1112, first reading. An ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, amending the Shelton Municipal Code, Chapter 3.12, entitled Administrative Provisions for the City of Shelton Taxes. Ordinance number 1816-1112, first reading. An ordinance of the City of Shelton, Washington, relating to business and occupation tax, amending Shelton Municipal Code, Chapter 3.52, entitled Business and Occupation Tax, making changes to the procedures for the assessment and collection of business and occupation taxes.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is an administration report from our administrator, Dave O'Leary. Okay. We have a general public comment period here. Jerry, did you want to say anything tonight? Have a nice Thanksgiving? All right, that's good. I hope to eat a lot of turkey. All right, final touches. Administration final touches.
I have an item. I do. We are in need of a easement from the State Patrol as part of the water extension on Dayton Airport Road. We are extending a service loop onto their property that will require us to be able to come in and do periodic maintenance on that. So we'll be bringing forward a request to secure that easement. And just in terms of another update, we received word from the Transportation Improvement Board that we received funding for both the Lake Boulevard and First Street paver projects. So there you go.
All right, is that it? Sounds good. Our next meeting will be Monday, November 26th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. This meeting is adjourned.